Welcome to the Retirement Made Easy podcast, a show created to be your go-to source for straightforward retirement advice. Best of all, it is presented in a language that you can understand. Are you ready for some straight talk on retirement planning without all the fluff? Well, you found the right podcast. Here's your host, certified financial planner, Greg Gonzalez.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the Retirement Made Easy podcast. I'm Greg Gonzalez. On today's episode, I wanted to talk about a question that's kind of high level, but so many people ask me this as they're approaching retirement. How much am I going to need to have saved for retirement before I can comfortably retire? How much do I need here? When's the stopping point? And then once you get to that point, you've kind of earned the work optional lifestyle, meaning you can financially decide to retire anytime you want. You have earned your freedom or your ability to retire whenever you want to. So continue to work if it brings you joy and gives you purpose, but just know you are in a great position to retire if you so decide to. And I did a YouTube video, which we'll include in the show notes. Our YouTube channel is Retirement Made Easy. And the title of the video is, I'm 65 with $1 million. How much can I expect to spend in retirement? There's many listeners that'll say, well, $1 million, anybody should be able to retire with $1 million at 65, you would think. Well, it kind of depends on a lot of things. Let's take, for example, where you're located. Someone in California, I've only been there a couple times, but what I hear is the cost of living is a lot higher than here in the Midwest. I'm located in St. Louis, Missouri, and the cost of living is fairly reasonable. You can buy a house for $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, and it's a nice house. And I've talked to a few clients that I have out in California, and they all say that the real estate market, the cost of living is just very, very high. And a $1 million to $2 million home is kind of the norm out there. And we're talking about retirement being a 30-year journey. And for some people, it may be more than 30 years. But if you have $1 million saved in California, it might not get you as far as it would here in the Midwest, where just the cost of living is a lot lower. So we're going to talk about this topic on today's episode. How much do you really need to have saved for retirement? And what are the factors that go into this? I think this is going to be a really good conversation. Hopefully you can learn a bit, because this is one of those questions that is on so many people's minds. And if you're a new listener to the podcast, I invite you to check out our website, retirementmadeeasypodcast.com. There you can check out and listen to all previous 173 episodes. If you are so inclined, you can also download some of our free resources for people planning for a successful retirement. And if you're looking to partner with a retirement planning team, there's a button that says work with us there, and you can schedule a time to have a conversation about building your own customized retirement plan and potentially working with us. So let's jump into today's episode. I had a few conversations this past month with podcast listeners and a few other couples that had been referred to us. And on our questionnaire, one of the questions is what's on your mind? What are your financial concerns? And it's always interesting to me to see what people are concerned about that are getting close to retirement. And one of the questions people will write in very often is, do I have enough saved to retire? Can I afford to retire is another question. Another question is, am I saving enough currently on an annual basis to be able to retire when I want to? Another question is, when can I retire? At the rate I'm going, when can I expect to retire? So those seem to be the top questions that I see. Now, there's others that are fairly common, like, hey, should we get our house paid off by the time we retire? What do we do about health insurance in retirement? What's that going to cost us? Are Roth conversions a good idea for us? That's another very common question. But I thought on today's episode, hey, let's talk about this question. How do you determine how much you really need to have saved for retirement, either in a 401k or other investment accounts or retirement accounts? What does that magic number have to be? And how do you get a grasp on that? So I think the first thing you should really do is to back into this and say, okay, imagine we're on the doorstep of retirement. the last 12 months, the last 24 months, how much do we spend every single month? And a lot of people don't like doing budgeting, in my experience. An easier way is maybe to look at your take-home pay and to look at that pay stub. And if you get paid every 2 weeks, you can take that net take-home pay, take that times 26 pay periods in a year, and that will kind of give you a total for the year of, hey, what's my annual take-home pay? What am I spending here? And if both spouses are working, well, you've got two amounts, and that's kind of your take-home pay. And get that down to a monthly amount of take-home pay that you're either spending. And at that point, then if you were spending as much as you bring home, well, then you would kind of maintain an emergency fund balance. For those people that spend more than they make, well, they're going to put it on credit cards, they're going to take out home equity loans, and that's a totally different story for those people. And then I talk to other people that say, yeah, hey, maybe we take home $8,000 a month or $7,000 a month, whatever it happens to be. But then they say, well, gosh, our emergency fund, and by emergency fund, I mean checking and savings and money market accounts, it's growing. So what that means is there's a surplus every month, and they're socking away extra funds, and they're just building up in their local bank or credit union. And quite often I hear people say, yeah, gosh, we sock away $2,000, $3,000 a month. So for those people, they can really, look at their take-home pay and then subtract out what's being added to their emergency fund balance every month, whether it's $2,000 or $3,000. Okay, so now we've got kind of our expenses. The more precise way to do it is actually to do a budget. Dave Ramsey has an app called Every Dollar that a lot of people end up using. And there's many out there that are very useful for those people that want to really, really have a grasp of a detailed view of what's going on as far as your budgeting. And then we look on the other side, what are our sources of income in retirement? And we have plenty of clients that, hey, their Social Security income that they're planning on, and that's a whole nother as far as the claiming and when you claim, and maybe one spouse claims earlier than the other. That's kind of a strategy that you'll have to kind of design on your own. But with that being said, looking at those Social Security income figures and how much of your budget they're going to take care of, that's certainly important to know. And if you're lucky and have a pension, that could be another source of income that is reliable every single month. So we've got Social Security, maybe we've got a pension, and then fill in the gap with maybe personal savings. And that might be retirement accounts like 401ks. And then we say, gosh, how much can our 401k provide as far as an income if we were now retired and we needed to start taking withdrawals from these 401k balances? And maybe you're spending your dividends and part of the growth and principal. And obviously you need that money to last. And that's one of the most important keys, is to say, you've got to take a withdrawal that's going to stand the test of time. Because if you're 62 or 65 today and you plan on retiring, well, how long do you need an income from those retirement accounts? If you look at Jimmy Carter just turned 100 years old. So if you're 65 today and you retire, it's hard to imagine that you're going to need an income 35 years from now when you turn 100. So it's very, very possible that you need this money to last and continue to pay you for the next 35 years. I had a client in the other day, he retired a little early, but his dad's 86 and he's going around like he's a 50-year-old. I mean, he's just got energy. He's very vibrant at 86. So that's one of the biggest elements of this, is you need to take withdrawals and you need this money to last for the next 25, 30, 35, 40 years. You don't know. And it's better, in my opinion, to be more conservative when it comes to your planning. And hey, if your father is still alive and doing well at 86, well, then I think it's wise to say, hey, I might need it, money out of these retirement accounts until I'm 95. Because it's just one of those things we don't know. So we have to make conservative assumptions that, hey, there might be a chance that, hey, at 95, I'm still around and doing well, and I still need an income, because just living on my pension and Social Security maybe is not enough for you. Now, with that being said, we have some clients that are debt-free. They live very modest lifestyles, and they live quite comfortably on their Social Security check and a pension check. The risk with those different income streams is Social Security checks, they rarely keep up with the cost of living. They do have a COLA to them, cost of living adjustment, that you get every January, but oftentimes it just doesn't keep up, especially when your insurance goes up 25%, when your water bill goes up 50% in a 2-year period, and your Social Security check goes up 5, 6, 7%. And maybe your pension check that you get every single month is fixed for life. That can be very, very dangerous because over the years, your pension check buys less and less, and your cost of living keeps going up and up and up. So with that being said, what you're withdrawing from your 401k and personal savings, likely you're going to have to draw more and more and more out of it every year as you get older because your costs go up. Just the price of electricity to heat and cool your home. Your cell phone bill goes up. Healthcare costs, they always seem to outpace inflation historically. And even going out to eat anymore, or if you go to the grocery store, you can see how much prices have gone up. And you got to ask yourself, should we expect this to continue for the next 30 years? I think you have to. Now, at what rate inflation continues to climb and climb and climb, that's up for debate. But nothing is getting cheaper. So whatever that pool of money is that we have in our 401k, Roth IRAs, your retirement nest egg that we call it, understand that you're going to have to draw more and more out of it every year as your costs continue to climb in retirement. Now, the other thing is, as I'm getting to know a new client, for example, and I'm a retirement planner, I want to know, okay, what do you spend money on? What's your lifestyle cost? And when I hear people say, well, we like to travel a lot, we need to take into account that, hey, traveling costs are going to continue to climb. Then, for example, if I'm talking to someone and they say, I like to buy a new vehicle every 5 years. I like driving a new vehicle. It's just something that I'm used to. Well, what's neat is you can go back and look at the MSRP on all these vehicles today, which is 2024. You can look at 2019. You can look at 2014, 2009. And you can look at how much the price of a new vehicle has gone up and up and up over the years. And again, we have to expect that's going to continue to climb. In fact, I have a client that the other day said he spent more for his last vehicle than he did for his first house. If that's not a sign of the rising cost of living and how much vehicles have gone up over the years, I don't know what is. I have other clients that say, well, we've got a second home or a vacation home. Maybe they're snowbirds, maybe they're not, maybe they just have a lake house. And those are expenses. And then we say, okay, well, how much does that cost to maintain that second home? And we put those costs together. Or just maybe you're one of those people that is planning on adding new costs to your lifestyle once you retire. Like maybe it's the purchase of a boat or RV. Maybe you're looking at purchasing a second home, maybe in Florida or somewhere else. And those extra costs associated with all that is going to add to your current budget that you're not used to spending every month. And the other thing to mention is, hey, maybe you have grandkids. How much will you be financially responsible for them throughout their life? Again, something to kind of consider. Healthcare costs. What are healthcare costs going to be in retirement? And if you learn anything from this podcast, believe me, you need to understand that healthcare costs are one of those things. They're going to be one of your biggest expenses in retirement, and those costs will continue to climb. They just will, especially with the baby boomer population. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to be needing healthcare as they age and make their way through retirement. So we've got all these different factors that we're kind of thinking about when it comes to our situation. And you're thinking, gosh, I'm going to need an income from this retirement nest egg, but I need to know, okay, how much do I need to have saved? And how much can I expect to take as far as a withdrawal from my retirement accounts or retirement nest egg to supplement my other income, like maybe Social Security income, pension income, maybe part-time income. So if you're working, let's say maybe you plan on working part-time for the first 5 or 10 years in retirement, and you don't need to draw as much income from your 401k, Roth IRAs, whatever the retirement accounts that you have, you do not plan on taking those withdrawals for maybe 5 or 10 years because you plan on having some type of part-time income, or just going to take a little bit, maybe $1,000 or $2,000 a month from your retirement nest egg. Well, in that case, you won't need to have as much saved because you've got that extra source of income being employment income. Next, we look at your appetite for risk. We call it your risk score. And so with that, some people want to be really, really conservative with their money, and they cannot stand the volatility, the ups and downs of the stock market or volatility. And so for those people, they're going to need to have more saved for retirement, entering retirement, because they have a lower expected rate of return throughout retirement because they're not comfortable taking the risk and going through the ups and downs in order to get the potential higher rate of return from their investments. So you really need to understand where you fall, whether you're a very conservative investor, maybe a more conservative to moderate, and then you go up the scale to a moderate or middle of the road investor, all the way up to moderate aggressive, or you really, really like the roller coaster rides and are okay with that. If it gives you the potential of having a greater return, that would be your aggressive investor. Now, there's a lot of rule of thumbs out there. There's a lot of studies that people have done, and they come up with, well, there's a 4% rule, meaning if you've got $1 million saved for retirement, you can take a 4% withdrawal, and adjusted for inflation, your money should last throughout your life expectancy. And then there's other studies that have kind of debunked that myth and said, no, the 4% rule doesn't work. I believe a 4% rule, it's not a bad place to start, but I encourage you not to stop there, because retirement is a huge decision. When you pull the trigger to retire, you want to really, really be confident about that decision. And maybe it's wise to do what if scenarios. Like the last couple of years, I had so many people retire before the pandemic, and then they saw costs rise 15, 20, 25% over the last couple of years, and they're spending more than they ever imagined. And a lot of people say, well, retirees are on a fixed income. Well, you've got to kind of look at how much flexibility your plan has when it comes to your spending, or if there's areas where maybe your fixed expenses are going to be the same month in and month out, but maybe the discretionary expenses like traveling, leisure, home improvements, things like that, maybe one year we kind of lay low, so to speak, don't spend as much, but then the next year the economy improves, the market improves, and it allows us to spend more. And then if it were to retreat again, maybe we would kind of pull back and adjust our discretionary spending. And then the one last thing that I wanted to mention is when you're trying to determine how much you need to have saved for retirement. And I ask this question to all clients, all new clients, is to say, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you rate the importance of leaving a legacy for your kids as far as an inheritance for them? And I have some clients that say, yes, it'd be nice to leave them a couple $100,000 each. I have other clients that say, no, we've paid for their college. They're doing great. In fact, they're doing better than we are at this point. They don't need any money left over as far as an inheritance. Sure, it would be nice to have, but we told them don't expect anything. So as far as how much money you need to have saved for retirement, if one of your goals is to leave a legacy or an inheritance for your adult children one day, then you've got to kind of say, okay, we want this money to last for the rest of our lives, but we also want some extra funds left over. So for those people, you need to have more saved for retirement than someone that says, no, we just want to make sure this money lasts as long as we do. And if any money's left over, great, but we're not counting on that. That's not part of our goal. So for those people, again, you want to leave money for your kids and you determine how much is enough, but that goal that you have, if you do have that goal of leaving money for the kids, that really, really impacts the amount of money that you're going to need to have saved for retirement. Believe me. And very, very few people talk about that. And this is why it's so hard. Retirement planning is different from one person to another based on their goals, based on their spending, based on where they are now and where they want to be in retirement and what they want that retirement vision to look like. So I hope this conversation has been helpful. It's not as easy. It's not black and white as far as, okay, you need X amount of dollars, because your goals are going to really, really override any rule of thumb that you might come up with, that you might be trying to operate off of. And maybe you heard some things on today's episode that might kind of get the wheels spinning in your head saying, gosh, maybe we need more saved for retirement than we thought. If you have questions, visit our website, retirementmadeeasypodcast.com. I'll see you next time. And remember, always dream big. The opinions voiced in this material are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, please consult your attorney, tax advisor, or financial advisor prior to investing. This is a hypothetical example and is not representative of any specific investment. Your results may vary. All performance referenced is historical and is no guarantee of future results. All indices mentioned are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. The SmartVestor program is a directory of investment professionals. Neither Dave Ramsey nor SmartVestor are affiliates of St. Louis Retirement Advisors or LPL Financial. There is no guarantee that a diversified portfolio will enhance overall returns or outperform a non-diversified portfolio. Diversification does not protect against market risk. All investing involves risk, including loss of principal. No strategy assures success or protects against loss. Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA, SIPC. And here's another minute of disclosures from our compliance department. Traditional IRA account owners have considerations to make before performing a Roth IRA conversion. These primarily include income tax consequences on the converted amount in the year of the conversion, withdrawal limitations from the Roth IRA, and income limitations for future contributions to a Roth IRA. In addition, if you are required to take a required minimum distribution in the year you convert, you must do so before converting to a Roth IRA. As I have said on countless episodes, this information is not intended to be a substitute for specific individualized tax advice. We suggest that you discuss your specific tax issues with a qualified tax advisor.
Thank you for listening to the show today. Check us out at our website, retirementmadeeasypodcast.com. And if you want some help from Greg, submit your questions at the bottom of the page or sign up for a 30-minute retirement coaching session with Greg. We'll see you next week.